You're listening to the Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We de-propagandize the mainstream media. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. By the way, there is a perspective on this broadcast that has nothing to do with politics. It's American. A lot of people elect Republicans. A lot of people elect Democrats. What we're doing on this broadcast is we're talking about America. And that goes all the way back to the founding framers of this nation. And so that's where you find this broadcast when it comes from a perspective for the commentary we were just talking about. It's an American perspective, not a political one. Unfortunately, it's an election year. And indeed, when I say unfortunate, that's not unfortunate. Let me rephrase. It's unfortunate for me because I'm not a political guy. I don't like politics. I like reporting the news. I like chasing news stories that have very little to do with the various gnashing of teeth having to do with American politics that is endless in this nation. But I report it because it's the biggest news of the day. And speaking of the biggest news of the day, we've got something for you to start this off. And of course, it's last night's historic situation involving Kamala Harris and the Democrat National Convention. History was made last night. Kamala Harris accepted the Democrat Party nomination, the first black woman and person of South Asian descent to do so. Those historic firsts can be opportunities. They can be challenges. Harris is not someone known for delivering big speeches. The public's views of her are still forming. She's got the nomination, after all, without running in a primary, the first to do so in decades. We must be worthy of this moment. Who's reporting this? This is NPR. NPR has written this story. So here are 5 takeaways from her acceptance speech and the Democrat convention. First, she introduced herself to America. This was by far the most important speech of Harris's political career. It was in front of the biggest audience she's ever spoken to, not the crowd of thousands in person in the audience, but the crowd of millions watching at home and taking it in, and those who will be taking it in the coming days. She had to connect with those who were either undecided about her or those on her side, but not sold on voting. She tried to do that by inverting what former President Donald Trump does and othering certain groups of people. She tried to make her story one of a child of immigrants from India and Jamaica, a typical and relatable American one. She's the child of divorce, brought up in a working class, raised by a mother who dreamed big and taught her daughters to dream big, but also stressed critical all-American values: work hard, don't complain, and do something. A nice rhetorical coda to the former First Lady Michelle Obama's speech 2 nights ago. Overall, Harris sounded in control. She shared her value, told her country where she comes from and where she wants to take it, and also contrasted herself with Donald Trump. How did it look? The NBC Today show did a great job on capsulizing it for you, so let's bring that to you here on the Wells Report as we get rolling for Fishing Shirt Friday afternoon on this broadcast.
Vice President Kamala Harris taking a step toward history. I accept your nomination to be President of the United States.
Harris weaving her life story into a vision for the country.
My mother was a brilliant, 5-foot-tall, brown woman with an accent. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it.
Following a night highlighting Harris's family, her great nieces teaching the audience how to pronounce her name.
First you say comma like a comma in a sentence.
The vice president framing the choice facing America.
A precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward.
But Harris also spent considerable time criticizing former President Trump.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States.
Harris promising to cut taxes for the middle class, bring back the bipartisan border security bill, and pledging to restore reproductive rights, calling out her opponent.
He plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Harris also making her most extensive remarks so far on the Israel-Hamas war, saying she'll protect Israel's right to defend itself, but also calling the situation in Gaza devastating.
Now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done.
And continuing on foreign policy, attacking Mr. Trump's approach toward foreign leaders.
I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand.
Harris ending on optimism.
It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American.
Mr. Trump responding in real time online, saying Harris did not give enough specifics on national security and the economy, and calling into Fox News.
She is a horrible, horrible person to run this country. We won't have a country if she gets elected.
After the balloon drop, we caught up with the vice president backstage.
What did you feel like at that moment?
It felt good. I mean, listen, we've got 75 days to go, so that was good. Now we got to move on.
Yeah.
And many of the delegates here last night wore white in support of the women's suffrage movement, a nod to the history that Harris could make as the nation's first woman president. But notably, Harris, unlike Hillary Clinton 8 years ago, never explicitly acknowledged it. Instead, the former prosecutor making the case that she is ready to serve.
All right, that was NBC and the Today Show talking a little bit more about that. Back to the NPR article about their takeaways. So, yeah, that was mission accomplished. Kamala Harris introduced herself to America. Harris and Democrats flipped the script in the convention on a lot of GOP attacks against them. They appealed to common sense, a small c conservative value, reclaimed who and what qualifies as blue collar, stood up for veterans, and redefined freedom. Instead of a radical California liberal, Harris has painted herself as a regular blue collar kid who understands the needs of people and the value of hard work and discipline. Democrats, instead of coming across as unpatriotic and unhappy with America, enthusiastically spoke of campaigning with joy and flooded the United Center in Chicago with flags. They had Republicans like former Republican Representative Adam Kinzinger attest to their patriotism and decency, and they brought veterans to the forefront on the stage and in speeches. I will always honor and never disparage their service and their sacrifice, Harris said. Democrats haven't always been good at commanding the message in presidential campaigns, but so far since Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, have come to the scene, they are doing that, starting with making their opponents seem weird and taking it further in this convention. It's all been in service of trying to reach the middle. The third thing that NPR saw was Harris showed she was disciplined. One of the most important jobs of a candidate in a presidential acceptance speech is to allow people to actually visualize them as president. That's especially true for someone who does not have a lot of time in front of voters. Agree or not with the direction Harris wants to take the country, she did that last night. She looked the part, stuck to the script, didn't ramble or meander, and stuck mostly to the facts. She laid out a vision for the future of the country, one that stands in stark contrast to what she says Donald Trump wants to do. If with her discipline, Harris was trying to reassure Americans that she can handle the presidency, it also had to give the Democrats confidence in the kind of candidate she'll be for the remaining 74 days of this campaign. She tried to stake a claim to the change mantle. Harris has provided Democrats with enthusiasm they didn't have before President Biden dropped out. Part of that comes from the change Harris brings. Another challenge for her last night was to show she could grab a firm hold on the change mantle. Change, after all, is one of the strongest motivators in politics. Harris not only showed she is different from Trump, someone who has now been running or serving as president for almost a decade, but she also is trying to distance herself from President Biden. That was evident by the very different speeches they delivered this week. Biden's was darker, more focused on defending democracy as well as his achievements in office. In fact, Biden mentioned democracy 10 times in his speech. Harris mentioned it, but only twice. Our nation, with this election, has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward, not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. Another way she showed her differences with Biden was how she spoke about Gaza. She said she would always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, but she added at the same time, that's what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost, desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. And she pledged that she and President Biden are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinians can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. The last thing in their article today, Democrats are walking away thrilled with how the week went, but it's still a very close race. The week was very well produced. The campaign pulled off a high-wire act, seamlessly marrying the convention with a packed Harris-Walz rally in Milwaukee at the very arenas where the Republican National Convention was held, and it had big stars. But most importantly, it showcased and introduced Harris in the best light possible. All of that has Democrats over the moon. Still, for what a solid rollout Harris has had and all her momentum, this remains a very close race. That's why several Democrats this week urged the crowd against irrational exuberance and reminded onlookers the work still needs to be done. Yes, Kamala and Tim are doing great now, said Michelle Obama. We're loving it. They're packing arenas across the country. Folks are energized. We're feeling good. But remember, there are still so many people who are desperate for a different outcome. There's no doubt about that, says NPR. USA Today talks a little bit about fact-checking, and you have to look at this as we promise you to point out bias and fact. You got to make sure that when you listen to these facts and this fact-checking, you got to take it with the appropriate grain of salt, and only you know how big that grain should be. Vice President Kamala Harris, dozens of speakers that preceded her at the Democrat National Convention attacked former President Donald Trump on an array of fronts, including abortion, diplomacy, and his litany of criminal charges. Not all of that was true. What wasn't true? What was true? Well, we'll find out according to USA Today. Welcome to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Remember, I told you if you found value in the show to subscribe to it, share it with your friends, have them subscribe, and then hit the notification button because the show was going to move around schedule-wise for a while. Guess what? It's happened. So for goodness sakes, make sure you hit the notification button so that you know when we're on the air. By the way, this schedule is probably going to show up a couple of more times insofar as my day job has changed my schedule. And so So we may have to start looking at this more as an afternoon broadcast than it has been, which was a midday broadcast, but you'll never know unless you hit the notification button and find out. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Thanks very much for joining us today on Fishing Shirt Friday. This is one of my favorite fishing shirts. I think it's at Chaps. I got it at Kohl's, and it was about the same price as my Magellan, my beloved Magellan fishing shirts. I love those things. You can find those at Academy Sports. So wear your fishing shirts on Friday, because let me tell you something. It's hot out there. It was 103 today where I live. 103. I didn't sweat today. I melted. It was unbelievable. Getting back to USA Today's fact check of the DNC. Some of the things that have been said. Now, remember, this is USA Today. This is a center-left publication. Trump tariffs would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year. This overstates the impact economists project from Trump's proposed 10% tariff on imported goods. While Trump has described it as a way to raise revenue, economists say it would be mostly passed along to consumers, effectively making it a tax. It's not a tax. It's an economic effect. A tax is a tax. When a government says, we're going to take a portion of your money for this reason or this rationale, that's a tax. Tariffs, in other words, it's not a tax. It affects the actual marketplace. Do prices rise? Yes. But there are other downstream effects that you need to keep in mind. For example, tariffs balance a workplace or a work group that makes $2 an hour with a work group that makes, in the case of the leftists' idea of what a minimum wage should be, $15 an hour. So you raise the price coming into the country, you raise the price of goods coming into the country with a tariff to balance that workload. What does that do? What that does is that puts American manufacturers and businesses in a position where they don't have to go offshore for any of their products. No, what they can do is they can stay home because the price would be relatively the same. Does that cost more money? Yeah, because there's an awful lot of cheap goods from what are essentially slave labor countries. But it does have an impact. Is it $4,000? The Tax Policy Center, a nonpartisan agency, said that the tariffs, along with the 60% tariffs on Chinese goods also proposed, would lower the average post-tax incomes of American households by about $1,800, not $4,000. Mostly in line with projections from the Peterson Institute for International Economics, a think tank that said that tariffs would cost households only about $1,700. Still a lot of money. Still a lot of money, but it's a lot different than $4,000. So Kamala Harris last night claimed that Trump would be immune from criminal prosecution. Can you imagine Trump without guardrails? Can you imagine Kamala Harris without guardrails? I mean, look at politics. I don't care what political party you're in. Can you imagine Chuck Schumer without guardrails? Can you imagine Lindsey Graham without guardrails? I mean, come on. All right. Anyway, what she said was this. In July, the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 decision that presidents, including Trump, are at least partially immune from prosecution for crimes committed while in office. But the court's decision is not as clear-cut as the Harris remarks make them seem. It declares that only official acts by presidents are protected, but steps taken as a candidate are not. The ruling leaves room for presidents to be prosecuted under a narrow set of circumstances related to responsibilities within the outer perimeter of presidential duties. No official acts. As USA Today previously reported, the parties before us do not dispute that a former president can be subject to criminal prosecutions for unofficial acts committed while in office. This according to Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the 6-3 majority. They also agree that some of the conduct described in the indictment includes actions taken by Trump in his unofficial capacity, and therefore he would be criminally liable or legally liable for those. That was an overstatement. It's been an overstatement that's been made even by Justice Sotomayor. Sonia Sotomayor wrote that the court could give Trump all the immunity he asked for and more. Didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. And so, okay, that's another little thing that USA Today says that Kamala Harris got wrong. There's more on that, and we will talk about it as we continue. The day after the Democrat National Convention. Fact checks, according to USA Today. More next.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good afternoon. Yeah, I know. You're sitting there going, wait a minute, why are you on so late? Well, my day job schedule changed, and that's the way that works from time to time. Let's see here. Taking a look at the chat room, you know, we talk about news, analysis, commentary, and debate. Your opinion just as valuable as mine. Let's share them. Gary says, spoke no issues, just glittering generalities and Trump bashing. I listened to it last night. He also said she shows she's an excellent teleprompter reader. When is she going to take Q&A from the press? That is a great question. I would very much like to know the answer to that myself. If you have a comment, go to your platform of choice and try to find the chat room. Let me see. While I'm at it, let me see what's going on here. We broadcast live on Rumble, and I can't get Rumble to show up on the chat room here. So what I do is I go and check, and okay, nobody's got anything right this minute. Okie dokie. All right. But if you are on Rumble, make sure you use the commentary thing, the comment at the bottom underneath the broadcast, because a lot of these people watch the show afterwards. And so go ahead and give me a comment. I will read them live on the air, just like I just did here. We are going through fact checks according to USA Today, not Fox News, not any other right-wing news organization. USA Today is center left. We've been scrupulously fair regarding the DNC, just like we were with the RNC. And we're going straight down the line here because this election is about fact for us. We're bringing you facts. And there's opinion, but if you disagree with the opinion you see from me, by all means, jump on the telephone 817-379-2172 and tell me where I got it wrong. You're perfectly welcome to. I would appreciate it if you did. So Ruben Gallego during the DNC claimed that Vice President Harris was responsible for veterans benefits expansions and the unemployment rate. The Department of Veterans Affairs said it has granted benefits to 1.1 million veterans and their survivors so far in fiscal year 2024. That is an all-time record. The VA said it's been able to deliver more care and benefits than ever before, largely because of the PACT Act. President Joe Biden signed that into law in August of 2022. The White House described the law as the most significant expansion of VA health care in 30 years. It helps deliver timely health benefits and services to over 5 million veterans who may have been exposed to toxic substances through burn pits while serving in the country. But the claim overreaches by giving direct credit for Harris for actions taken by an administration led by Biden. In public remarks in 2022, Harris credited Biden's leadership for the passage of the PACT Act. The issue is close to Biden. It was drawn a connection between burn pits and his late son Beau's fatal brain cancer. The Department of Veterans Affairs website says the PACT Act is perhaps the largest health care and benefit expansion in VA history. The Veterans of Foreign Wars, a nonprofit veteran service organization, considered the bill the most significant piece of veterans legislation in history. Kamala Harris claimed, Trump plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator. You saw that on the video we just played, forcing reporting on miscarriages and abortions. The claim does not appear to reference any plan or platform endorsed by Donald Trump, but that is rather aspects of, again, Project 2025, a political playbook created by the Heritage Foundation and dozens of other conservative groups. The project calls for increasing the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention surveillance of abortion information by forcing states that don't currently provide this information to the CDC, such as California, Maryland, and New Hampshire, to do so. Page 455 of the plan explains this would be done by allowing the Department of Health and Human Services to use every available tool, including cutting of funds, to ensure that every state reports exactly how many abortions are taking place within its borders, at what gestational age of the child, for what reason, the mother's state of residence, and by what method. It also calls for information about miscarriages to be collected from the states. As Harris alludes to, the plan also calls for appointing someone who is unapologetically pro-life as senior coordinator of the Office of Women, Children, and Families. While Democrats have insisted that Project 2025 belongs to Trump, he has attempted to distance himself from it, according to USA Today. In a July 5th Truth Social post, Trump wrote that he disagrees with parts of the plans, has no idea who's behind it. Notably, Trump embraced many of the Heritage Foundation's policy proposals during his first administration. They were different proposals at that time. USA Today leaves that out. You know, the part where we point out fact and bias? We also point out propaganda because we depropagandize the mainstream media. The Heritage Foundation did indeed have input on the Trump administration the first time around, but they were different issues. starkly different ones, and USA Today leaves that out. Just keep that in mind, just being fair. Kamala Harris claimed that Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. This is a slightly softened version of a claim that Harris's campaign has made before, including a tweet from her campaign claiming Trump attempted to do this every single year. It oversimplifies a series of budget maneuvers. Trump didn't attempt to cut general Social Security retirement benefits. He attempted and failed to reduce spending for Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income, according to the Washington Post. That is a more than center-left publication, as you know. 8.5 million people receive such disability benefits, but that's only a fraction of the number who received retirement and survivor benefits. Trump did propose cuts to Medicare in his final budgets for the fiscal years 2018, 2019, 20, and 21, according to the Post. But an analysis by the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget found that 85% of his proposed Medicare savings would come from healthcare providers and would lower costs for seniors. That is, by the way, significant when you start thinking about how Kamala Harris has put out that she would control prices if she had a chance to stop what she called price gouging. And so this essentially is a different proposal that accomplishes the same thing in a way that doesn't necessarily hit taxpayers in the pocketbook. Kamala Harris has claimed Trump encouraged Russia to invade allies. Trump, on the other hand, threatened to abandon NATO. He encouraged Putin to invade our allies, said Russia could, quote, do whatever the hell they want. This claim popped up earlier in the evening by Senator Mark Kelly and by President Joe Biden in the State of the Union. Here's what we reported when Kelly said it. The quote Harris cited here is technically accurate, but significantly oversimplified. Trump, speaking at a February 10th campaign rally in Conway, South Carolina, suggested that he might not come to the aid of NATO members attacked by Russia if they were not contributing enough money to the alliance. That was also previously reported by USA Today. And that's important. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? Trump said, I said you didn't pay, you're delinquent. Let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. What is that? Well, that's hardball bargaining with NATO allies who refused to pay their fair share of the NATO alliance. And that was true, and that was real, and it was bipartisan. Republican presidents didn't care whether NATO countries paid their dues. Democrat presidents didn't care whether NATO paid their dues, and Donald Trump did. And that, of course, was attacked as just a horrifying insult. It's a terrible insult to our longstanding allies. Well, it wasn't a horrifying it wasn't. It wasn't anything of the kind. It was, let's do business. And business means you have to pay your dues. Kamala Harris claimed that she secured $20 billion for those hurt by the foreclosure crisis. I delivered $20 billion for middle-class families who faced foreclosure. This refers to the settlement that Harris, as California Attorney General, negotiated with several large mortgage companies in 2012 to provide relief for struggling homeowners in her state following the foreclosure crisis. The nation's 5 largest mortgage servicers, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Ally Bank, that's also GMAC Mortgage, were accused of using illicit tactics to wrongly foreclose on homeowners, according to the Los Angeles Times in 2016. Harris pulled California out of nationwide mortgage settlement talks in September of 2011 when it appeared that her state's share would be roughly $4 billion. In announcing the deal in 2020, her office said it totaled $18 billion, which more than $12 billion was to go toward reducing the principal on loans or offering short sales to roughly 250,000 homeowners who owed more than their homes were worth or were behind or almost behind on payments. There is a discrepancy in the specific dollar amount, however. While her office announced it was $18 billion, multiple media outlets through the years used the same $20 billion figure that Harris referenced during her address. Ultimately, about $4.5 billion of the settlement went to lower debt on primary mortgages, according to the Wall Street Journal. The rest went to reduce debt on second mortgages and to short sales, which banks agreed to allow homes to be sold for less than the mortgage value and wrote off the difference. Mark Kelly claimed during the DNC that Trump and Russia could do whatever the hell they wanted. As President Biden said at the State of the Union, Kelly here cites a quote that is technically accurate but significantly oversimplified. Trump, speaking at that February 10th campaign rally in Conway, South Carolina, suggested he might not come to the aid of NATO countries that hadn't paid their dues. At the time, NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg said that Trump's comments could endanger the lives and undermine security of NATO members, including the United States. It was basically a tempest in a teapot. They paid their dues, and that was that. Al Sharpton claimed that Trump paid for newspaper ads urging the death penalty for 5 teens. Sharpton is referring to the Central Park Five, a group of Black and Latino teenagers wrongly convicted of assaulting a white female jogger in Central Park in 1989. Less than 2 weeks after the attack, Trump took out an $85,000 full-page ad in the New York Times, the Daily News, the New York Post, and the New York Newsday. The ads proclaimed in all caps, "Bring back the death penalty and bring back our police," going to condemn a dangerously permissive atmosphere which allows criminals of every age to beat and rape a helpless woman, then laugh at her family's anguish. The ads did not explicitly advocate for the Central Park Five to be executed. In 2002, the group was exonerated after a convicted murderer, Matthias Reyes, confessed to assaulting the jogger, which was confirmed by DNA evidence. Trump did not apologize for the ads when he was asked in 2019 if he would apologize to the men. Marcia Fudge claimed that Trump was sued over housing for Black people. This lawsuit is real, although the quick mention leaves out how the case was resolved. The claim from the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development refers to a lawsuit filed more than 50 years ago. Former Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton made the same claim during a debate with Trump in 2016. Trump was in his late 20s in 1973 when the Justice Department sued him, his father Fred, and their management company over allegations of racial discrimination at their housing developments in New York. According to testers for New York City's Human Rights Division, a Black woman who attempted to rent an apartment at a Brooklyn complex managed by Trump's firm was told nothing was available, but a white woman was offered the choice of 2 apartments shortly thereafter. The case was settled in 1975 after Trump countersued the Justice Department for $100 million for making false statements. That allegation was dismissed. As noted by NPR, Trump responded in 2016 in a 2016 debate, emphasizing there was no admission of guilt in the case. Indeed, NPR reported that the Trumps took the settlement that included no admission of guilt, but required the Trumps to place newspaper ads saying their properties welcome Black applicants. Yes, when I was very young, I went into my father's company, had a real estate company in Brooklyn and Queens, and we, along with many, many other companies around the country, it was a federal lawsuit. We were sued. We settled the suit with no admission of guilt. Okay. And how we research facts and so on and so on. This is a fair piece by USA Today. They did a good job on both sides of it, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. That's why I brought it to your attention. It is something that I think is extremely important, that you indeed have facts. And that is what we are hoping and actually executing every single day on this broadcast. You got to have facts. I don't care who you vote for. I don't. I ask that you base your decision on fact. Base your decision on real issues discussed in a real way. Instead of, which has happened, and we have to point that out that it has happened, Kamala Harris has not specifically dealt with these kinds of issues that she is putting forward. She is testing the waters with some economic things. And the 2 things that she's brought up, which is this unrealized capital gains tax, that has been universally decried as a bad idea, along with price controls on groceries, saying that these big corporations, grocery corporations, for example, are gouging the consumers. Well, that may not necessarily be the case. A lot of economists from both sides of the aisle have said that's a very bad idea. It was tried during the Nixon administration. It lasted 90 days. It was a very bad idea. It made things worse, not better. Why Kamala Harris brought it up, I really don't know. To my eye, that looked like an unforced error. It's not something you have to do. And the unrealized capital gains tax, that's taxing money that you haven't made yet. And that's going to stop everything. And I'm not the only one saying it. Just so you know, that's the way I see it. If you have a different idea, call us. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. This is The Wells Report.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. I was talking a little bit about the unrealized capital gains tax and some other things having to do with tax hikes for rich people in the United States, as envisioned by Kamala Harris. And I have to tell you that Fox Business sat down with Andy Puzder. Okay, he is the CKE restaurant CEO. He also had something to do with a lot of big time economics during the Trump administration. This is what they talked about. I guess it was yesterday. And what we want to do is make sure that you see this here on the Wells Report. Check this out. Let's see here. Let me see. Oh, got to turn the sound up.
All of these tax hikes.
Let me start over again. Okay, here we go.
Former Labor Secretary nominee, former CKE restaurant CEO, Andy Puzder. Andy, all of these tax hikes, won't that cripple the U.S. economy, cripple small businesses and economic growth?
Yeah, well, it would be devastating to the economy. There would be far, far fewer jobs. There would be far, far fewer new businesses opening. Look, the Trump tax cuts, one thing that everybody seems to ignore is the Trump tax cuts were forecasted by the Congressional Budget Office to reduce tax revenue over a 10-year period by $1.1 trillion from the higher tax rates that were in place when the bill was passed. Now that we have 6 years of information under our belt, CBO is projecting that those tax cuts will actually generate $600 billion more. So that's a $1.7 trillion miss by the CBO on the original Trump tax cuts. So these tax cuts not only created jobs, they created increased tax revenue, which of course came in during the Biden-Harris administration. They didn't spend it to reduce the deficit. The Democrats never spend money to reduce the deficit. They haven't done anything with the deficit since Bill Clinton was president. All they do is increase the debt by continuing these massive government spending programs, which, as you noted, Harris signed on to the two biggest ones that drove us into this inflationary ditch.
If they go to, 28% would be the second highest effective tax rate out of the whole world. I mean, that's what we're looking at. The OECD average, I think, is 23%. The EU, 21%. Asia, including China, 19%. It'll cause companies to flee to tax havens like Ireland. The Business Roundtable, to what you're saying, some $2.5 trillion in income earned abroad came back here to America after Trump's tax reform. And now she's talking a capital gains wealth tax on unrealized gains, paper gains for those with $100 million in income and assets or more. That'll likely drop lower and lower into the lower brackets.
Well, we know what's going to happen if we take rates back up to 28%. It'll be exactly what President Trump said. And we know that because that's exactly what happened under President Obama when the tax rate was 28%. So if you raise corporate tax rates, you're going to give up revenue. You're going to lose companies. We're going to lose business. That $2.5 trillion that the Business Roundtable estimated was brought back into the country would not have been brought back into the country under the Obama level of corporate income tax. And if you go, the last president who was a Democrat did anything rational on taxes, again, was Bill Clinton. He cut the capital gains rate. He didn't increase it. He cut it. And when he cut it, he and Newt Gingrich were able to balance the federal budget. So you don't want to reduce, you want to increase them. You want to reduce them. And the idea that we're going to tax unrealized capital gains, that's just absurd. This is voodoo economics, 201. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, even Europe said no to a wealth tax. Let's listen. Let's end on what Trump says will work. Watch this.
She's going to ban fracking in Pennsylvania, but now she says she isn't, but she will 100%. She's going to do all of these things that are going to destroy our country. But she's flip-flopped on virtually every single thing she said and lived with for a whole life, long before her political life. They want to make all electric cars now. It's not going to work. First of all, they don't go far. They're more expensive, and they happen to be made mostly in China, and they have the material to make them. We don't.
Sorry, Trump was talking about what does not work. Andy Poster, final word.
I thought when we got rid of President Biden as a candidate, when he withdrew or was driven out, I thought we'd end up with Kamalanomics instead of Bidenomics, and it would be basically the same thing. But it's really much, much worse. It's like communism with a KAM at the beginning. These are rational. These are irrational policies that will drive us into an economic ditch. And God, I hope we don't end up with Ms. Harris as president.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Tonight,
all right. So that's Fox Business talking about these tax ideas so far from Kamala Harris. And people, like I said earlier on this broadcast, people on both sides of the aisle, economic people say these are bad ideas. And okay, how will she fix them? How will she set them up so that they make sense? And I'm waiting for that answer. I'm waiting to see exactly how they navigate all this. Remember, the presidency is powerful, but it's not that powerful. Remember that it is a three-part government, and there is separation of powers. And separation of powers is, as former Justice and the late Antonin Scalia of the Supreme Court said, that the greatest achievement of United States government through our Constitution, Bill of Rights, etc., isn't necessarily the Bill of Rights. It's the separation of powers. And when you distort those separation of powers, as we've seen politicians taking political issues into court, hoping to generate law in a federal courtroom as opposed to a federal legislature, then the entire country suffers. then that has to end as well. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells, and I know it's on late today and so on, but I hope you still have your fishing shirt on. It's still too hot out there to be out there. That's nuts. We've got hour number 2 coming up in just a couple of seconds. RFK Jr. did something amazing, and President Biden, make that President Trump. Don't know why I said Biden. President Trump is rallying in Dearborn, Michigan. We'll be talking more about that as we continue here on the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion. Yours and mine, equally valuable, whether you agree with what you perceive this broadcast to be or not. Share your opinion. We, the people of the United States, are all in this together. We have an election coming up. It's going to be tight. And the only way that you can do what I consider to be, which is a responsible act for the nation that we live in, is to consider all the facts. Don't get swept up in the hyperbole. Don't get swept up in the I'm not going to say anything that's partisan. Just don't get swept up in the razzmatazz on either side. Don't get swept up in all that. Listen for fact, because I assure you, no matter who wins the presidential election coming up in November, 74 days from today, they're going to be dealing with facts as they see them. And you have to understand what they see as those facts. And that's why we report them here on the Wells Report. The President of the United States is not in Dearborn, Michigan. I have no idea why I said it. All I can tell you is it's been a long week. It's Friday, and fishing shirt Friday, by the way. And I said Dearborn, Michigan. He's not in Dearborn, Michigan. No, he's in Glendale, Arizona. He's in Glendale, Arizona. Currently, right this very moment, Kari Lake, who is a candidate for U.S. Senate. She is a former media member, just like me, who decided to change her life when she had had enough, just like me. She is far better looking. Let's dip into some of the things that she's saying as this Glendale rally for Donald Trump and a special guest, I wonder who it could possibly be, RFK Jr., is unfolding in front of us. Let's take a look at what Kari Lake is saying as she addresses the crowd.
Built that, a big part of the skyline of New York. And I thought to myself, so is this what Frank Sinatra sang about in New York, New York? This was Trump Tower. This was New York City. If we could make it there, you can make it anywhere. Jeff and I were there. We were led into his office, and behind a large, beautiful desk sat a larger-than-life Donald J. Trump. He welcomed us. And immediately we launched into a recap, and he remembered a recap of a Turning Point event that we both attended about a month earlier. And he talked about the huge, loud, incredible, warm applause that I had received when he called out my name from you, the people of Arizona. And he said to me, I'll never forget it. He said, Kari, that wasn't a poll that you hire a pollster to do. That was a real poll. That was the people telling me who they support. Right? And then And then he began asking a few questions about how the campaign was going, polling, about policy. And I'll be honest, I was able to answer all of them with no problem, except one. A very important question that took Jeff and me completely off guard. And my husband, I don't know where he is. Are you out here, Jeff, somewhere? Come here, hon. Say hi to Jeff, please.
Mates.
Do you remember what the president asked us?
He asked us how long we'd been married.
That's what stumped us. Jeff forgot. And to Jeff's benefit, I also forgot. Now, you know, we turned to each other and we started counting and doing the math, and we came up with the figure 23 years. So we'll never get that wrong again, will we?
Yeah. All right. So that's Carrie Lake, and she's having a moment with her husband. That's nice. That was sweet. Like I said, we will be dipping in and out of that. Donald Trump is expected to be taking the stage here in a few minutes. But that being said, RFK took the stage earlier today. And RFK, I got to tell you, he had a teleprompter set up, but he didn't use it. He spoke up off the cuff for about 40 minutes and had some very interesting statements to make. And we certainly want to share those with you. And we have a report exactly about that. And we're going to bring that to you right this very moment. This was the moment that RFK Jr. changed the presidential race in 2024. Take a look.
56 presidents.
Whoops. Hold on. I forgot something. Yeah. I got two things running at this particular moment. And that's not something that you do. I can do it, but I have to be smarter than the actual machines. And that's not happening. Not happening on Friday today for some reason. So let me bring this back up, and let me turn this back over here, and let me hit this, and let me go there. And once again, this is RFK from earlier today talking to us about his campaign.
Many months ago, I promised the American people that I would withdraw from the race if I became a spoiler. A spoiler is someone who will alter the outcome of the election but has no chance of winning. In my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory in the face of this relentless systematic censorship and media control. So I cannot in good conscience ask my staff and volunteers to keep working their long hours or ask my donors to keep giving when I cannot honestly tell them that I have a real path to the White House. Furthermore, our polling consistently showed that by staying on the ballot in the battleground states, I would likely hand the election over to the Democrats with whom I disagree on the most existential issues: censorship, war, and chronic disease. Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. And I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me. It's with a sense of victory and not defeat, then I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible by collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. Chronic disease, free speech, government corruption, breaking our addiction to war have moved to the center of politics. I can say to all who have worked so hard the last year and a half, thank you for a job well done.
Yeah, that was RFK. And I have never seen a presidential candidate put himself in a position where he asks voters not to vote for him, which I think speaks highly of the man and also speaks highly of the kind of person that we should consider for the presidency. Now, I'm not an RFK Jr. fan. RFK was besmirched through the mainstream media for the last 20 years, and that damaged his candidacy. And I said so here on this broadcast. But someone who would tell voters not to vote for him in battleground states for a particular reason, that being that he does not agree with the Democrat Party, a party that he has been a part of his entire life. I believe that that is a fact that you should consider. Why would a member of the Kennedy family, whose uncle arrived in the presidency and enchanted the nation, why would he say that he does not want the Democrat Party to win? Could it be because he might get a job in the Trump administration? I doubt very sincerely that a job paying a few $100,000 a year would change his lifelong politics. No, it's a change in the Democrat Party. This is just my opinion. And you can have another one. It seems that the Democrat Party has changed. I pointed that out. I've pointed out that the progressive wing of the Democrat Party seems to be trying to edge itself closer and closer and closer to being the main part of the Democrat Party, which would necessitate a change to the Socialist Democrat Party. And we have seen the ruin of socialism throughout history and throughout even recent history, if you think about Venezuela. And all it does is transfer power to politicians. People think that this might be some kind of a partisan broadcast. It is not. It is fair. It is not Republican or Democrat. It is American. We lead with America here. And that means that I invite you to share your thoughts on this broadcast, whatever they are. Certainly for the next 74 days. And this is not something new for me. The people that have listened to this broadcast or watched this broadcast on social media know full well that I have reported the news honestly and fairly. We have a motto here: truth spoken here. Truth spoken here. It doesn't have to be me. I don't care who speaks that truth. I just want that truth to be spoken, especially now. And so there is huge division in the United States by design. It favors what is being called, and indeed what is being constructed, as the ruling class in the United States of America. It is politician-centric. It is not American-centric. It is a government of the government, for the government, by the government, instead of a government of the people, by the people, for the people. The government of the United States is supposed to work for us. That's not what's happening. It's the other way around. The government of the United States expects us to work for them. And that's when any politician, for whatever reason, comes up to you and says, we're going to raise taxes on this group of people or that group of people or this or that or what have you. Those are people that are expecting those Americans to work for the government and not the other way around. In a capitalist free market society, the winners get to win. And yeah, they make a lot of money. And they make a lot of money making other people, giving other people a chance to make a lot of money. Okay, so give you an example, Elon Musk, sending rockets and spacecraft into orbit around the United States, the entire world, plans on going to the moon and to Mars. There are a lot of people working for him at SpaceX, and that's just one of his businesses. Those people pay taxes. Those people run their families. Those people are well paid, and they're doing good work because this man had lots and lots of money. Do we want to take that away? This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Glendale, Arizona is where there is a rally going on for Donald Trump. In the first hour of this broadcast, we covered the DNC. In this hour of the broadcast, we balance our coverage by taking a look at what's going on with both Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And by the way, there's another piece from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that we're going to play here after this next break that talks about the media. I was listening to it today. I watched the entire speech. It was really well done. I watched RFK Jr.'s speech. No teleprompter. He had a teleprompter there, but there was nothing on it. He simply spoke from his heart for about 40 minutes. And he talked about the media. And he talked about how the Democrat Party had worked to quell political opposition in their own party, for crying out loud. And those comments were eloquent, and they were perfectly right on point. And as I said, there will be people who have watched this broadcast for some time who will note that a lot of the things that Robert F. Kennedy talked about in this next piece that we're going to play for you have been talked about on this broadcast. As a matter of fact, the same dangers that he actually has, for all intents and purposes, succumbed to. He suspended his campaign today because of lawfare. It wasn't just Donald Trump that was the victim of lawfare. It was also RFK Jr. and anybody else who wanted to challenge Joe Biden. They were tied up in courts. They spent millions upon millions of dollars defending themselves from what could be frivolous lawsuits, but who cares? Because the clock is ticking, and when somebody tries to sue you, you go into the court system and you have to spend money and you have to wait and wait and wait. In a world that, and this is my criticism of the judicial branch of our government, in a world that spins at the speed of electronic media, they're still using paper and pencil. Come on, guys. Got to speed up. That being said, he actually has suffered. I do what I do based on what is more philosophical understanding of what has to be, in my opinion. What has to be is you have to have someplace to go where you get real news from somebody who knows what to do when it comes to news. You report it. You reduce it to its facts. Who, what, when, where, why, how. You report those facts. What happens after that is none of your business as a news reporter. None of your business. All you got to do this job is to realize that it's not about you. Of all the things that changed on 9/11, our country changed, the world changed. Of all the things that happened on 9/11, what changed me the most was I was not going to allow the mainstream media to massage us into believing something that wasn't true. I wasn't going to watch them break the rules of journalism, and indeed, in so doing, break the First Amendment guarantee of a free press. This is not about you. And so I stopped doing the John David Wells Show. Because on this broadcast, it has nothing to do with me. It's the news. It's the report. It's the Wells Report. Yeah, my name's on it. And I'm proud that my name's on it. It's not because I take ego gratification out of it, but because it's a reaffirmation of the commitment I made on 9/11. And we're going to be celebrating our 24th anniversary coming up next month. I've been doing this for 24 years. I walked away from a spectacular career in radio just to report the news. And I hope that you hear it. Don't get carried away by what isn't news. Be informed and enlivened and indeed inspired by what is the news. I wish other people did this at the level that I try to. Maybe someday. This is the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells, and yes, I understand I'm a bore when it comes to the mainstream media. And yes, I talk about what we do on this broadcast, not so much to aggrandize what we do on this broadcast, because that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. No, I'm doing this not to pat myself on the back, but to try to implore other people to do what I do. I want people in the mainstream media to stop being politicians. I want them to be media people. And I can tell you that no one has made that point better than RFK did earlier today when he was talking about the media. And what he said is that the media, the mainstream media, both shut him down. The DNC, the Democrat National Committee, shut out his campaign. He had to run as an independent after being a lifelong Democrat. And he made perfect points. And if you've ever paid any attention to anything that's been on this broadcast, please pay attention to what RFK said today while he was talking about Kamala Harris and her sudden rise to popularity. Check this out.
Engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days. I do interviews every day. Many of you have interviewed me. Anybody who asks gets to interview me. Some days I do as many as 10. President Trump, who actually was nominated and won an election, also does interviews daily. How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. When a U.S. president colludes with or outright coerces media companies to censor political speech, it's an attack on our most sacred right of free expression, and that's the very right upon which all of our other constitutional rights rest. President Biden mocked Vladimir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin and his party controlled the Russian press and that Putin prevented serious opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks exposed themselves as Democratic Party organs. Over the course of more than a year, in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s, the DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage. Representatives of those networks are in this room right now, and I'll just take a moment to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power. instead of maintaining that posture of fear, skepticism toward authority, your institutions have made themselves government mouthpieces.
Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? I hate to ask, I hate to bring this up, but there have been years that I've made zero revenue from doing this broadcast. Zero. And the reason is because it has to be done to combat the things that Robert F. Kennedy just talked about. He's not kidding. He's serious. It comes down for me to this question. Yes, President Biden did hammer Vladimir Putin for his unbelievable victory, 88%. Are you kidding me? And the answer is no, not kidding you. Hammered him for it. But the thing about it was what Robert F. Kennedy just said. Putin controls the press in that country. The Democrat National Committee controls the press in this country. The DNC kept opponents to Joe Biden from being heard or seen in any way they possibly could, legally, by coercing the mainstream media. This is the problem. It doesn't make any difference which political party is responsible. If this was something that the Republican Party was doing, I'd be saying the same things, the exact same things, in fact. We have to have a press. We have to have a press that indeed reports to the people of the United States instead of reporting to the party bosses at the DNC, the RNC, any of the deep state, FBI, DHS, CIA, NSA, all of them. The people who are in America's media owe it to us to report to us, not to their party bosses. And so President Trump in Glendale, Arizona has taken the stage. Let's see what he has to say, because we're also expecting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to also take that stage and speak some more. Now, as opposed to what we've just played from RFK, this will be a partisan political speech. I'm not going to say, by all means, watch it, because what RFK said today was the stuff that I think you need to hear. What he's going to say is he's going to support Donald Trump, and that's his prerogative. The only thing I'd ask is why? Why is a lifelong Democrat walking away from the Democrat Party? Well, they walked away from him. But you might want to consider his reasoning, especially coming from a Democrat. Here's Donald Trump in Glendale, Arizona.
Didn't she, huh? Banning gas-powered cars and sex changes for minor children without parental consent. How about that one? How would you like that? Without parental consent. Can you imagine your kid comes home without parental consent? What happened to my baby? What happened? The true divide in American politics today is between these far-left fascists led by Harris and her group, and you know who her group is, and citizens of all political backgrounds who love our country, share traditional American values, the values that you have right here in this great state, and look past our differences to unite around a thing called our great American flag. And we should speak to our great congressmen and congresswomen They ought to make it illegal to burn the American flag. If you burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. 1 year, that's all, 1 year. You burn the American flag, because in Chicago at the Democrat deal, they were burning flags all over the place. You burn the American flag. They say it's unconstitutional to do that. I think it's constitutional. You burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. Nobody's going to be burning the American flag anymore. Our opponents worship the deep state. We want to obliterate the deep state. Slight difference. Our opponents, thank you. Our opponents join with warmongers and neocons to wage endless wars, these wars that never end. We don't even know who the hell the country is that we're fighting. We believe that America is strongest when America is at peace. We want peace through strength. That's what we want. Like we had 4 years ago. We didn't have any wars, except we wiped out ISIS very quickly. It was supposed to take 5 years to beat ISIS. I did it in 3 weeks. They support coercive COVID vaccine mandates and want to fire you. If you don't obey, you get fired. We oppose these mandates as a fundamental violation of our God-given rights. We don't want the mandates. We don't want the mandates. They want to arrest their political opponents and silence those who disagree. We reject censorship in all forms, and we believe in freedom, open debate, and fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. Our opponents slander us as a threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to democracy. No, they're a threat to democracy. How many times have you heard, it's a talking point for them, right, Deb? It's a talking point. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And those guys say it too, because they're the same thing. They're like they're a subsidiary of the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, they rig their primaries. They force out Joe Biden. They force him out of the party. Joe Biden got 14 million votes in an unconstitutional coup, and they appoint a nominee who never got a single vote. And when she ran against this guy, and I'm no fan, he was the worst president in the history of our country. He let in millions and millions of people through her. Let in millions of people would destroy our country. But we're going to get those people out, the people that came in here from jails and prisons and mental institutions. But they threw them out. They ran against each other for the primary, and she never even made it to the first state, the great state of Iowa. Never made it. And now she's the one running. It's a little strange, isn't it? You see, that's really a threat to democracy if you get right down to it, right? In our movement, we know that democracy does not mean rule by the Democrat establishment. It means rule by the American people. Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome a man who has been an incredible champion for so many of these values that we all share, and we've shared them for a long time. I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
This, by the way, is being given to us by C-SPAN, and obviously C-SPAN is in a situation where they are dealing with a lot of people watching this speech, and you can see that the signal is degraded. This is President Trump in Glendale, Arizona, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. sharing the stage.
He deserves it.
If there was ever a symbol of America coming together, this might be it. Lifelong Democrat.
For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been allowed to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in. They put up rules. I've never seen rules like you had to have 65% of the vote in order to run, you know, little things like that. His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And I know that they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth? And I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got applause like he just got. I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that.
Certainly not a room full of Republicans cheering a Democrat at this level.
Amazing. It's true. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that. And I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this, he is a brilliant, I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
You're watching the Wells Report. This is a Trump rally that's turning into a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. rally from Glendale, Arizona.
Thank you, President Trump.
This is the Wells Report. A chant reminiscent of 1968.
Thank you. Now, a few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida. And we talked about, not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food? And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption? And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted. He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy. He said he didn't want any more $200 billion wars in Ukraine, that we could use that money back here in the United States. And the safest, the best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country. And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country? And he told me that he wanted to end the censorship because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information. And we know that a government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And can you think of any time that you can look back in history and say that the people who were censoring were the good guys? They're always the bad guys, because it's always the first step down that slippery slope to totalitarianism. And don't you want a president who's going to protect America's freedoms? And who is going to protect us against totalitarianism? And I want to ask you again, don't you want a safe environment for your children? Don't you want to know that the food that you're feeding them is not filled with chemicals that are going to give them cancer and chronic disease? And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? Thank you all very, very much, and God bless you, and God bless America.
If there was ever a powerful moment in American politics, I think you just saw it, where a lifelong Democrat and a Republican presidential candidate could stand on the same stage and find common ground. RFK asks, do you want a president that will do this and that and such and so? Do you want a government that can function like that for the people of the United States instead of corporate interests? Don't get me wrong, I'm not against corporations. I'm just against corporations telling us what to do. This has been the Wells Report. It's been a pretty good week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This broadcast will be on from 5 until 7 p.m. on Monday. I will see you then. Have a great weekend. Be safe. And by all means, make good decisions based on fact, okay? God bless you and yours. Thanks very much for watching this week of editions of the Wells Report. Have a great weekend.